And good afternoon, all. And again, we are going to give a lesson on how to start a fire in your wood stove. Fire good, stupidity bad. Fire is our friend when we control it, when we put it in an environment where it does its best. And that's this nice wood stove made out of heavy, thick. Look at this door. Look how heavy that door is. You know, and it has a nice chamber in the back that blows out the hot air, and it's got a great flue. It's perfect. And that's what you want. You want a really solid wood stove fire environment. And the other thing you want to do is insulate your house, and you really don't have to go crazy on it. You just have to keep the breeze from going in. What's his name threw me under the bus the day after Christmas when the Russian mail order bride came and she was smoking 4 cigarettes at once, going, I got to get out of here, I had to get out of here. What's his name got, as he always says, anxious and gotta go, gotta go. And it was last year, the 26th of December, when it was ridiculously cold. I mean, we had, and we're heading into another, it's a solar minimum, go to, what's his name? Who's the guy who invented the atomic bomb but didn't, who said, I see the fire and I know hell is me. What's his name? He was a smart boy, smarter than he should have been, but he could throw a good party, you know. Anyway, so it was a beautiful morning, sun. No idea. I called up all my friends around. It was the day after Christmas. Nobody's around, so I had no place, no couch to go surf on. So I went up to West Virginia, and where I have some friends. There's this little town that has been washed out in the mid 90s or late 90s by a Mr. Peabody's coal mine. They scooped out the coal from the top, cut up the top of the mountain, scooped it out. The water filled up like a big lake at the top of the mountain and then blew out the side and took out this little town, right? And it blew out the bridge and the road and the power line and the water line and everything. And everybody who survived, there were like maybe 400 people in that town. And those who survived, who had the wherewithal to get out of Dodge, did. But it left about 12, 15 families, about 40 people that couldn't go anywhere, didn't have a car, didn't have any money. And I went up there with a group of people who were in a church, and we tried to help them out. It was Thanksgiving. We brought them coats and shoes, and I cooked lots of turkey dinners, and we probably had 20 turkeys and sliced it up so they could eat it for the next week or two. And this girl and I, everybody, thought, they were UU church, and those guys are, oh, look at this, we're so great, we did this. Okay, bye. Die if you want. We're not going to help you anymore. So this girl who I was liked a lot, I stayed there with her, and we did our best. And I used my car had all my tools, and they had septic, but they had no water. So we found a spring, and this guy donated half a mile of black PVC pipe, and we brought it down. And in West Virginia, there's a lot of natural gas, and a lot of people who have their own. When the guys dug up the oil and the gas was still there, and they didn't care about it, they passed a law. Hey, we're being nice to you. You can have the gas. If it's coming out of your basement, you can catch it and use it. So we did, and we heated water, heated air, and heated their homes, and this was all. So anyway, that's where I was heading because those people love me. I was like you know, Al Bob, the savior, the Dutch uncle who could make things happen without any money, right? And then that spring, we made a gigantic garden and grew food, and that was a good 18 years ago, and or maybe even more. So that's where I was heading. That's a place I can always go, and but there's no getting there. You got to like take this back road up in West Virginia off of 220, and then go sideways, go up through the woods, and then if it's not raining too hard, drive across this stream because if it really is raining hard, it's a rushing river where you can't get there, and there are no bridges. You got to drive through, and nobody knows where this path is, so you kind of go across that, and then you kind of get on another dirt road and you drive into town, and that's how it works. And so anyway, I was heading that neck of the woods. They have no phones, no nothing, and it's a good almost 200 miles from. It's like somewhere between 220 and Morgantown, right? Anyway, so I was heading that way, and there's a place just before the border that I know that's, again, another logging road. Nobody goes up this thing, but it's nice, right? And it's kind of sheltered, and I can drive up there and pull into this place. No one can see me, no cops go up there. It's a place you can go and, hang out, and I have a little campsite up there. It was way too cold to camp. I was staying in my car. And back onto 20 and heading towards West Virginia, there is this like right, those like little, not quite a town, but it's where the interstate cuts across a big county road, and they got a little strip mall and maybe a Food Lion and a couple of stores and a restaurant or two and maybe a diner. Anyway, so they had a really good breakfast, good yodeling morning. Yep. So so I pull into that diner, and I have no money. I got maybe $30 after filling my car up with gas. I have about $30 in cash. So, but my car, I always have blankets. I always have water. I always can food. I have a survival thing. I have my tools. If I can get work or need to pick something for someone. So anyway, I'm in the diner. I have a nice omelet and all the fixins, and I get a couple of coffees to go, and I'm walking out, and there's this girl. She's spare changing right at the door. She's, maybe 20, 21. She's wearing very expensive clothes, very nice, preppy clothes, and but they're a little rumpled, a little dirty. It looks like she's been out and about for about the last month and a half, without taking a shower or a bath or washing her clothes. Anyway, so I look at her and she goes, "You guys?" I said, "Well, you want to have breakfast and you can explain to me what you're doing?" And she goes, "Okay." So I go in and I'm like a hobbit, I can have four different breakfasts, first breakfast. So I go in and I didn't have pancakes. There's people who have pretty good pancakes. So I have pancakes and two eggs over easy and sour cream instead of maple syrup. Kids, if you want to survive diabetes, everything you can do to substitute sugar, do it, right? So, syrup is like death, but the pancakes really aren't. The little carbohydrates never hurt you, just as long as you don't eat lots of them. Anyway, so I was sitting there, and had a big, she had a big man's breakfast. She was hungry. So we're eating it up, and the guy who owns the place knows my predicament, so he kind of gives me the high sign, "Don't worry about the check." He tells Mabel, "Don't worry about the check." So she tells me that she comes from a nice family in Atlanta, and she had gone to Brown University and graduated, and she didn't get her first pick or second pick job as an executive, and so she had to go home and live in mom and dad's basement. And and she just was not doing nothing. Her buddies came back from college, and they didn't get their first pick job, so they were all gonna like just kick back for summer and maybe do an adventure. So they all decide to go up on the AT. They've heard how the AT is like. Ooh, it's a little cold down here. Is loads of fun, and so they get on the AT, Appalachian Trail in Georgia, and they start in August. So here it is, the day after Christmas, and they're only in West Virginia. And they have no camping gear, no tents, no tarps, no nothing. And they're wearing no hiking boots. They're like wearing, loafers. And so she takes me back up into the woods, into the national forest. I think it's George Washington, and finds this old log cabin. And her comrades, about 3 guys and 4 other girls, are in there shivering. They don't have big coats. They got like little, spring, fall coats, north. Anyway, expensive clothes, but not really dressed for where they were. And in this cabin, there is not only a wood stove, but a big freaking fireplace that's half the wall of this cabin. And it's obvious this cabin's been a party place because there's all kinds of beer cans and cardboard and candy wrappers and lots of KFC boxes and stuff like that. So I say to the kids, okay, kids, let's go outside. And I said, why haven't you built a fire? And the guy who's the alpha dummy goes, well, we don't have any money and we have to go to Lowe's to buy firewood. I said, well, you're in a forest. Look around you. Look on the floor. And he's like looking towards the cabin. Where I said, no, the floor of the forest. And he goes, there's a floor in the forest? I said, it's the ground. So, there's wood everywhere. And it hasn't really snowed or rained. Yes, it's a little moist from lying on the ground, but it's not like it's been rained on. So I said, okay, 50 foot around the cabin, all of the wood that's here, drag into the cabin, right? And put it against the wall. Big logs, lean it up against the wall. Small logs, right? And anything that you can break into smaller pieces over your knee or over the edge of the stone where the fireplace is, do it, right? So do that. And then I take 3 of the strapping boys and we go deeper into the woods and get more bigger logs and drag them. And I have them lean them against the outside of the cabin, right? Underneath the eaves of the roof. So even if it does rain, they won't get wet. And being surrounded by air, they'll kind of be ready to, set on fire. So anyway, so I take all the KFC boxes, all the paper and garbage, and I pile it up. And then all the stuff that they snapped, a little kindling, I make a little teepee over that. And then I, go into my car and I have some tiki torch fuel, which is like the magic juice, right? So, and I got a box of matches like, like these. I always have a box of those. And so I make the fire, just like I'm going to do now, right? But I first did it in the fireplace, right? But here we got it in the, so I got some paper, right? Paper, crumpled it up, and I put it between 2 logs. So I made a little thing that you could put wood across the top, right? Then I squirted, I had some cardboard. I had some cardboard, which I have here, and I kind of tore it up to little pieces. And I put it on top of the paper, as a little more than kindling. And that was the KFC boxes. And then I had kindling that I kind of, put around like that. Right? And, And I've got some more like scrap kindling, which is like the bark and stuff like that. I'll go back to that. It's like the bark and stuff like that, right? And we kind of put that over it. And then I struck a match. Oops. I struck a match and make sure they don't hang out. Struck a match. Yeah, and I put it to the paper. Then I had a little fan. Here's the fan, right? Because air is the friend of fire. See how easy that was? Meaning, and I don't even have jungle juice. I don't have any tiki torch juice. This is just kindling and paper and cardboard. Now, it has to get hot and heat up the chimney. Some smoke might come out, but not much. So you just let it do its thing, right? So you have some, bigger than kindling, and you kind of put it across like that. Sometimes you might want to wear gloves, and I'm quick. So there you go. Now the heat, the convection is taking everything straight up the chimney. And the air is being sucked in, and that's really what's feeding the fire, is the air being sucked in through the door. So the kids, they had been there 2 nights, freezing, not eating.